world before it's too late.
Remember, corruption kills.
Yes, corruption kills.
As we go back to school, let us practice health with integrity.
Integrity Club, Visa Ocean School, Nairobi, Turus.
Makofi mazito tafadhali. Thank you so much, Visa Ocean. Hey, na mlikuwa na energy hata mkuwa kama wagonjwa. Asanteni. Madam Waziri, allow me please to just very briefly recognize the presence of representatives from various institutions within government and partners. Very briefly, from the Office of the Auditor General, the Attorney General's Office, the Controller of Budget Office, I know they have representatives here, the Director of Public Prosecutions, State Department for Devolution, the GIZ, KEMRI, the Kenyatta National Hospital, KEPSA, UNDP, World Bank, and many others. I wish I could recognize all of you, but I will do that in another segment. But I want to thank all of you for making time to be here with us. I'd like now to hand over the baton to Bwana Jackson K. Mua. He's the Director of Field Services and Coordination at the Eacc, to take us from here. Karibu sana.
The Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Health, Chairperson Eacc, representative of the British High Commission, Dr. Richard Elbach, UNODC representative, Mr. Neil, Eacc commissioners, representative of the Eacc CEO, Dr. Mr. David Storr, the representative of the judiciary, the Honorable Zioki, Chief Magistrate, County Secretary is present, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. At this point, we want to turn the meeting to hear our leaders talk to us. And for us to do that, we will first listen to the representative of the British High Commissioner, Dr. Richard Elbach. Let us join in inviting him to speak to us. Dr. Richard, welcome.
Great. CS, Chair, Eacc, Neil, UNODC, Commissioners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good morning. It's a great honor and pleasure to address you all today, and I bring greetings from our High Commissioner Jane Marriott, who's unable to be with us today. As you know, or as many of you know, the UK is the co-chair of the Anti-Corruption Donor Group, along with Germany. And it is a real pleasure that we have been able to support the work of the Eacc and the UNODC in developing the research, producing this report, and organizing this event here today. We know that corruption and illicit finance are global challenges. We also know that corruption in the healthcare sector, as we've learnt from the performance just now, that corruption in the healthcare sector kills. This is the use of resources in the healthcare and making sure they're used efficiently and effectively is an important issue which the CS and I have discussed many times in the past. The UK is a proud supporter of the healthcare sector in Kenya, and over the last 20 years has provided roughly £200 million or 30 billion Kenyan shillings to support healthcare in Kenya, particularly maternal, child, reproductive health. We learned from the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, which was launched earlier this year, that Kenya has made great progress in reducing the incidences of neonatal maternal death. Significant progress has been made, but there is still more that needs to be done. If you look at the attendance of births by skilled health attendants, Kenya is now up over 90% in this regard, but there are some counties where this is not the case. In some counties, 1 in 2 children who are born are not attended by a skilled birth attendant. In some counties, which were mentioned earlier, we find that the healthcare facilities are not as equipped or not as easily accessible for everybody. So there is fantastic work that has been done in the health sector, but there's still a long way to go. I know that Kenya has signed up to the Abuja Declaration to allocate 15% of its government budget to the health sector, and that will be a wonderful achievement. But it's not just the level of resources, it's how those resources are used that is equally important. And so let me just finish by saying that the UK and Kenya have a long, deep relationship that covers many sectors, including health, and I'm proud of the work that we've been doing in anti-corruption and illicit finance. And it's great to be here today, as I've said, to launch this particular report. I've already learnt a lot, so Victor, thank you for sharing the highlights of that report, and I look forward to hearing more about how the government of Kenya, how county governments are looking to improve the use of public resources to address some of the recommendations and the constraints that have been identified in this particular report. The fact we're here together today is a signal of our interest, our shared interest in the use of public resources and addressing some of these recommendations. I do just want to say that the UK and Kenya stand together. We have, as I said, a long history of engagement, and this is one step along the way to helping to improve the use of public resources in the health sector. On that note, let me hand back, Jackson, and I wish you all a successful deliberation of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Richard, for those remarks. Next, as we were told by Director Ms. Okongo when he was making his presentation, the study we are launching today was jointly done by Eacc and UNODC. UNODC was the main sponsor for this study. UNODC has partnered with Eacc in quite a number of programs, including the undertaking the study which we are launching. And therefore, at this point, allow me to invite the UNODC Regional Representative for East Africa, Mr. Neil Wash, to speak to us. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. You have a very small man behind a large number of microphones. Okay, so Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Susan Wafula, Chair of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Bishop Dr. David Oginde, Dr. Richard Elbach, the Deputy Development Director at the British High Commission, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with great pleasure that I join you this morning to launch the EACC report on corruption and unethical conduct in the Kenya healthcare projects. This report is a culmination of the EACC assessment with UNODC support and UK funding into the procurement and financial management practices of Kenyan healthcare projects. Locally conducted and produced, this represents a vital step forward for the Republic of Kenya in her fight against corruption in the healthcare sector. This is a topic which ordinarily may not get the media attention it deserves, But as I read the final version of the report on Monday night, and MTV's Twitter feed popped up on my screen, I suddenly got the sense that the dynamic may have, as we say in Ireland, changed ever so slightly. And given the number of cameras in front of me, I think that dynamic has changed. I first and foremost want to congratulate the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for its commitment and dedication towards the successful development of this comprehensive report. The Commission's commitment to promoting transparency and accountability and steering our fight against corruption in Kenya is laudable. I would also like to appreciate all of you who contributed to this report, including field researchers, technical experts, editors, as well as the funder, the UK government, and other partners and supporters. I also deeply appreciate the representation of the health sector stakeholders, led by the Cabinet Secretary, being here today, and her personal presence a clear indication of commitment, which I applaud. The UN's Office on Drugs and Crime, which I'm lucky enough to lead in Eastern Africa, remains steadfast in its commitment to realising the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa and beyond. The goals serve as a transformative blueprint for a better future, including good health and well-being, and peace, justice and strong institutions. And the strength of your institutions are the basis of your democracy and of your public health. UNODC's work in this space on health and corruption directly contributes to the realisation of these goals by addressing the root causes of social inequality, promoting inclusive societies, and fostering sustainable development. And I think the kids from the schools showed us that in a really clear way. Through strategic partnerships, innovative approaches, and targeted interventions, UNODC strives to leave no one behind, ensuring that Africa and its people prosper, thrive, and achieve the shared aspirations enshrined in the Sustainable Development Goals. We at UNODC continue to support these interventions, addressing health and corruption issues. We work to prevent and to reduce drug abuse and its associated health consequences. And in the fight against corruption, our strategic vision for Africa is unwavering. We strive to strengthen legal frameworks and institutions, equip nations with the tools to prevent and combat corruption with relentless determination, your relentless determination. And the implementation of the UN's Convention Against Corruption illuminates the path toward transparency and accountability. We stand united with you, with Kenya, dedicated to countering corruption and the recovery of illicit finances associated with it. And unsurprisingly, ladies and gentlemen, profit and power are at the heart of corruption. And corruption is far from unique to Kenya. It is a global threat with a global presence. Before joining the UN, I worked in covert law enforcement for 15 years, countering corruption operations within law enforcement organisations. And I was saying to the CS this morning, I remember the utter disappointment and the profound disgust that I felt investigating my own. That those charged with protecting the public would sell secrets, place lives at risk, and undermine justice for their own financial gain. That's even more so when we look at the healthcare industry. I feel the same today when I challenge corruption within the UN. We are sadly threatened by the same forces for the same reasons. The issues of unethical practice within healthcare is a matter of great global concern. Corruption in healthcare projects is a pervasive problem that affects millions of people around the world, particularly in developing countries. In the past few years, I've had cancer twice, brain hemorrhages, a cardiac arrest, and as a result, I'm reliant on many, many medications to keep me alive. Yet the cost of these medications in Kenya is thousands of % more than in my previous base in Vienna. Why should Kenyans have to pay massive costs for the same generic medication? Why do those in society with the least face impossible costs for healthcare? Corruption, I dare say, plays a part in this. And that's why today we're launching this report barely 48 hours after the country witnessed the EACC's launch of investigations into the allegations of an irregular award of $3.7 billion tender by KEMSA. And President Ruto's response was swift and will enable an objective, proportionate, lawful investigation. And again, the presence of the CS here indicates the strength of that commitment. This is undoubtedly uncomfortable, and I know how it feels. I know from experience to feel the pressure of internal investigations in one's own organisation. But it's a vital part of rebuilding trust with the public we serve. You will be, Kenya will be better for this work, however uncomfortable it may be. The report that we're launching today, and that Eacc is launching today, sheds light on the gaps, on the scope and the scale of corruption. We've already heard some of those recommendations this morning. It highlights the key challenges in the healthcare procurement chain and identifies key strategies for combating this problem. The report, which draws from extensive field research across 25 counties, describes the specific integrity risks that exist in all phases of the public procurement cycle. Corruption impedes the ability of the national and county governments to invest in healthcare, in infrastructure and in facilities, which exacerbates the already critical healthcare situation across our country. Additionally, the consequences of corruption significantly reduce foreign investment in the healthcare sector, which results in a decrease in quality healthcare provided to Kenyan citizens. It is crucial that we take action to address these issues. And that's why we're here today. That's why you have taken the time to turn up today and to sit and to listen and to engage. And we must work together to promote transparency and accountability in healthcare, to hold accountable those who engage in unethical practice and commit crime. I urge the Government of Kenya to implement the recommendations contained in the report, and from speaking with Dr. David this morning, know that Eacc is fully committed to doing this. In the same breath, we call on all county governors to ensure that healthcare projects within their devolved jurisdictions are managed effectively, with oversight and accountability mechanisms in place to prevent and counter corruption and the misuse of funds. It's my sincere hope that this report will serve as a wake-up call to policymakers, to healthcare professionals and to civil society, and inspire them to lobby for strengthened regulatory and institutional frameworks to address the root causes of corruption in the healthcare sector. Ladies and gentlemen, we at UNODC and across our UN family here in Kenya will, upon your request, support the implementation of the report's recommendations and do our very best to help you build a healthcare system that is fair, just and responsive to the needs of all Kenyans. Thank you very much for listening, and Santanini Sana.
Thank you for those remarks. Next, we are going to get remarks of the Secretary Chief Executive Officer of the Eacc, Mr. Twalib Barak, which will be delivered by the Eacc Director for Legal Services and Asset Recovery, Mr. David Tom. Welcome, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Health, Eacc Chairperson, representative of the British High Commission, representative of the UNODC, and all distinguished guests. Received greetings from Eacc CEO Twalib Barak, who is currently away on official duties. And I've been given the singular duty to read his speech, and I'll proceed to read it as is. I welcome you all to the launch of the report of the study on corruption and unethical conduct in Kenyan health sector. This study was enabled through the support of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC East Africa. We are grateful for the continued support and commitment by the UNODC. The Eacc and UNODC regional office partnered to conduct a collaborative study of the Kenyan health sector in 2010. The focus of the research was on the procurement and financial management, with the aim of identifying and addressing corruption and unethical conduct in procurement and financial management projects. To support this joint study, the UNODC provided the funding, while the Eacc undertook the actual study on corruption and unethical practices in healthcare projects initiation, planning, implementation, and closure. We are happy the report is being launched and disseminated today. The study brought out issues on adherence to relevant laws, policies, regulations with regard to implementation of healthcare projects. The data was collected through one-on-one computer-assisted personal interviews with healthcare officers, suppliers, contractors, key informants, and members of the public in 24 counties. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank all those involved in the successful completion of this study, including the UNODC, Eacc staff, the national and county governments officials, and members of the public who participated as respondents. With those few remarks, it is my honor and pleasure to invite the Eacc chairperson, Dr. David Okinde, to make his remarks and thereafter invite the Cabinet Secretary. Welcome, sir.
I greet you all. Good morning. Thank you very much. We are definitely delighted to be here. I want to appreciate Madam CS for taking your time to come and be with us. Thank you, Neil, for also taking your time to come and address us on this great occasion. I also appreciate from the Office of the High Commissioner UK also for coming and for those words that you have shared with us. And all of the guests who are here with us, we appreciate all of you, fellow commissioners. Thank you. This is a great occasion for us in the Eacc, and particularly for me, who has just stepped into this office only a few days ago, to see what is happening and what we are able to do. It is really my greatest honor to participate in this occasion to launch this survey report on corruption and unethical conduct in the Kenyan healthcare sector, particularly with the focus on procurement and financial management of projects. We want to thank the UNODC and the UK government for their support in this project. Whereas many view the Eacc as a body set up to fight corruption with an emphasis on fight, one of our key mandates is to take measures to ensure that we reduce or eradicate incidences of corruption. As the adage goes, prevention is better than cure. It is much cheaper to prevent the spread of a disease than to cure it. If we see corruption as a disease, which indeed it is in our nation, we should work much more on prevention than waiting to fight it after it happens. Therefore, the Commission is involved in many programs and projects aimed at helping government institutions to put in place preventive measures to curtail corruption practices. Just last week, we launched the report on the corruption risk assessment for the judiciary. What was so encouraging about that particular function was that the report we were giving to the judiciary was out of their own request to the Eacc to study their systems, their programs and processes, and identify weak areas that could be taken advantage of by corrupt individuals, and therefore help them to strengthen their systems to prevent any incidences of corruption. I was personally very encouraged to hear from the Chief Justice herself that they were going to implement the outcomes of that report. Today, we launch yet another report of one such efforts that are aimed at helping our health sector to identify and seal any loopholes for corrupt practices in their systems. And as been said by others, Madam CS, we are greatly encouraged to see you here in person, especially at a time when your adrenaline must be very high. But we are here to help you. This report comes at a time when the country is grappling with serious challenges in the health sector, and specifically that of corruption and unethical practices. Previous studies, as we had been told earlier, by Eacc and other bodies, such as Transparency International, have pointed to rampant corruption in the health sector. Madam CS, we realized that at this particular point there exists a noose around your neck. There are some people who are baying for your blood with regard to several allegations of corrupt practices in your ministry. We at Eacc are here to help you untie that noose and eventually to remove it from your neck. And so the findings of these recommendations are to inform policy and administrative interventions that you could take to ensure that the health sector is truly healthy and moves from this cloud that is hanging over your heads as one of the most corrupt institutions in the country. And so it will help in strengthening accountability and transparency, promoting the quality of access and affordability of health care that, as our children demonstrated here this morning, is a very sad situation in most of our healthcare facilities. The highlights of the findings have been mentioned to us, but it includes high prevalence of corruption and unethical conduct in the provision of services in the health sector, malpractices in public procurement and financial management in healthcare projects, ineffective information management system in healthcare project management, and inadequate anti-corruption measures to address malpractices in procurement and financial management in the sector. The highlights of our recommendations include streamlining the systems of accountability in the healthcare projects management, continuous capacity building on corruption prevention for actors in the healthcare projects implementation, and the enhancing of public participation in healthcare projects management. We did see that counties that have prioritized public participation were also the same counties that had the least incidences of corrupt practices in the implementation of their projects. This tells us that the more we engage the public, the better we are going to get services. In conclusion, as a commission, we want to continue to prioritize interventions in the health sector and partner with stakeholders in order to address the rampant corruption and unethical practices within this particular sector. But we want to also say that we want to move just beyond the healthcare sector, because we know this is a problem that is prevalent in many of our government institutions, and we are here to help address those issues so that Kenya can move into the league of developed countries. We can get into that place where our resources do not go to the pockets of a few greedy individuals, but instead they go to provide services that we as Kenyans so greatly deserve. Thank you all, and God bless you. May I now take this opportunity to invite our CS to come and share a few thoughts with us. Put your hands together as we invite Madam Wafula to come and talk to us.
Thank you, Chair. The Chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Dr. David Oginde, together with your commissioners present, Regional Representative of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, who is also Head of Mission for East Africa, Dr. Neil Jaish, Representative of the British High Commissioner, Dr. Richard, representatives of county governments present, representatives of different stakeholders, and now I see a member of the Health Committee from the National Assembly, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm not sure whether to say I'm delighted to join you this morning or not, especially now, where most people expect that I should be walking with my face looking down. But let me say I'm happy to be here to speak to not just you in this room, but to Kenyans as well. Let me begin, Dr. Oginde, by congratulating you on your appointment as the chair. And listening to you, I see a ray of hope. I sense newness and freshness, which, working together, we should be able to deliver this country. I really want to thank you as well, Chair, for the speech that you have given, and especially for what you have mentioned about doing more of preventive rather than fighting corruption. Similarly, in the Ministry of Health, we have taken an approach and changing the shift in delivery of healthcare from curative services focus to focusing on prevention and promoting healthcare. So I believe we are in tandem working for Kenyans. Ladies and gentlemen, the survey report we are launching today is significant and timely in two main ways. First, because the report comes barely 8 months into the administration of His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and barely 3 days or 2 days after the expose on KEMSA, which lies in my ministry. This report obviously then gives me impetus to deepen the reforms that I have started working on, geared towards an accountable healthcare system in this country. Secondly, the report allows us to put more focus on the issues affecting healthcare delivery to the people. And I truly hope that the findings and recommendations within the report shall inform various legal, policy, and administrative interventions. Distinguished guests, it is in recognition of the need for improved accountability in service delivery that the government continues to take various reform measures. For instance, just recently, the Cabinet approved the Conflict of Interest Bill 2023, which has been forwarded to the National Assembly for further processing. It is envisaged that if enacted into the law, the legislation will help to curb the challenge of conflict of interest, such as the identified by Eacc in the procurement and financial management relating to health projects in the counties and at the national level. Similarly, the government, through the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, is undertaking robust reforms in performance contracting framework, and this is aimed at addressing accountability deficits witnessed in the performance of public duty. And I think that has been demonstrated very clearly from the report in terms of the percentage on favoritism. Thirdly, the government is committed to strengthen oversight agencies such as Eacc that is launching this report today, the judiciary, and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in order to more effectively discharge their mandates. And fourth, the government has focused on automation of government services, and this is one of the notable pillars in the administration of His Excellency President William Ruto. Indeed, best practice indicates that removal of human interface in service delivery through adoption of technology is a viable accountability measure. These measures are part of the government's commitment to good governance, efficiency, effectiveness, and responsiveness in the delivery of public service. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my ministry is fully aware that corruption is a significant drawback in the efforts to reform Kenya's healthcare system. Indeed, in the latest survey that was released in December, it is a shame to say my ministry ranks second in the institutions perceived as most corrupt. Kenyans know that the president cracked the whip to the extent of terminating contract of one of my PSs, and now with a reshuffle. But as it is Kenyan culture, in reading the president's speech, everybody missed out on the step that had been taken by the cabinet secretary. And the speech was very clear, the decision that the president took and what the cabinet secretary had done. I think Kenyans need to know that last week on Thursday, immediately after the release of that report, I did write to Eacc and asked them to come and investigate. And when I was speaking to Twalib on Monday on WhatsApp, asking him whether he has received my letter, he said he hadn't. And that is how corruption fights back in this country. That when I wrote a letter on Thursday, Eacc is only a few meters from my office. By Monday, the letter had not arrived. But thankfully, Twalib confirmed to me and said, Madam CS, you don't have to worry. I have already released my officers. And they're already at KEMSA doing their work. That is how determined I am. We must all be socialized to the fact that Kenya cannot achieve its national goals unless the men and women who are entrusted with public office uphold the high standards of integrity. For this reason, I expect all agencies under my ministry to review their internal controls in line with the recommendations given by Eacc in the report that we are launching today. And Chair, I want you and I to sit together and derive a roadmap from the findings of the report. And I'm committed that we shall go by it. Listening to you, I am persuaded that this survey could not have come at a better time. The findings present crucial information that will amplify the various reform actions that the government is taking to enhance efficiency and accountability in the health sector. Some of the recommendations may require direct intervention of my ministry, which I have already said I'm committed to, some of the other government agencies, and if they fall under my ministry, I am as well committed. Those that fall outside my ministry, I'll be liaising with my colleagues to see how we enforce the report. On behalf of government, on behalf of my ministry, and for my own personal integrity measure, I undertake that I will and implement its recommendations. Lastly, allow me to speak to a few issues. The skit that was represented by the students from Visa Oshwani is a description of the health system in Kenya. From the skit, we had a problem, one, with the health workforce. The doctor was missing. It is said or called doctor on duty, but they were not on duty. That is a health workforce issue. In the skit, when the doctor arrived, of course, the doctor was on her phone, still a workforce issue. But again, she wanted to manage the queue and said, you are not the only patients. That is a system failure. In the case, when they wanted to get an option for the patient, they said they cannot afford a private hospital. That is a health financing system. And lastly, when the doctor prescribed the inhaler, it was out of stock. That is a health commodity issue. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency the President promised Kenyans that we shall deliver universal health coverage. I have taken time, together with my technical teams, with assistance from various people and stakeholders, to unpack what universal health coverage looks like. And now we are ready to deliver to Kenyans what we have unpacked. We have unpacked UHC on 4 main pillars. One is health commodity security. That we want to ensure that KEMSA does its job, and just doesn't do it, but does it well, that they have to be stocked on the most essential drugs and health commodities needed to serve Kenyans. And we have a plan on how we are going to ensure that that happens. A few months from now, we shall be launching our intentions on promoting local manufacturing for health products. That is one of the things that is going to ensure that we are stocked up on the most essential products. There is no reason why, up to now in Kenya, we still get paracetamol from India. It doesn't make sense. And Neil just spoke to it, that the cost of generics in this country is way above the cost in other developed countries. So we are going to work on that. On issues of technology, we are introducing an interoperable health management information system. That the issues we saw here in terms of management of the queues, where the doctor was asking for the patient records, that we are going to manage it on a HMIS. And maybe just need to say that my few days in office, I told the CEO, Kemsa, my friend, from today, I want to see pre-qualification through an information management system. And she told me, Madam CEO, the PPOA Act does not allow us to do it, and it is too costly to do it. I told her, I know somebody who will do it for free. And when the person went to visit, the CEO was not present. And therefore, we did not do any pre-qualification. But I'm glad that now we are going to do it. The other pillar of UHC that we have unpacked is health financing. We have worked on an essential package. We have costed the cost of providing healthcare. We know what it will cost us. And we are now working towards a social health insurance fund that does not have limitations, that does not have exclusions, that will take care of Kenyans wholesomely. So that is the fourth pillar of UHC. So it is not all dull and gloom. We are working. It's just that as a country, we have an appetite for bad news. And that is why, Nell, there were so many cameras. Because about this corruption, people really want to hear what it is. But I am committed, and I want to tell Kenyans that we are going to work on it. The appetite for brick and mortar is not going to be there. We have built enough, and buildings don't provide services. We now have an opportunity to ensure that through the 4 pillars that I have identified, we are able to provide services within the infrastructure that is already available. With those remarks, it's now my singular pleasure and honor to declare the EACC survey report on corruption and unethical conduct in the Kenya healthcare projects officially launched. May God bless you all. May God bless Kenya. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. I think we can appreciate the CS better. At this point, we are going to have just a symbolic launch, which has been organized so that after the launch, the symbolic launch, a few of these reports can be given out by our chief guest to some of the critical stakeholders who are with us today. To facilitate this session, I will invite my co-moderator, Mr. Nimrod Tabu, to guide us and call forward those who will lead in this session.
Thank you sana, asante sana Bwana Jackson Mwe. Amenipa kibarua ambacho tutafanya sasa hivi tu. And I'd like to invite Madam CS to be standing next to where we'll do the launch. I also want to invite the chairperson EACC, Dr. Bishop Oginde. I also want to invite the regional representative UNODC, Bwana Walsh, and Dr. Richard Elbert from the High Commission. And also may I also invite Mheshimiwa Anthony Kipagendi, by and large to represent the Health Committee for the National Assembly, Karibu Sana, and just one commissioner to represent the EACC. Just one commissioner, if you may, please. Madam CS, I'd want to encourage you to be on the right side, and then we all face the curtains before us. Madam CS, right, because I'd like you to press the button. Na wageni tafadhali, let's be upstanding. Tafadhali, maana nataka makofi. Bande ya cocktail